I wanted to discuss the various remazim, the various hints to Chanukah in this weekly reading. Of course, our parsha called Behaalotcha starts with the menorah, and indeed, during Chanukah on the 8th day, we read the beginning of this parsha. The previous days we read the end of Parshat Naso with various offerings that heads of tribes, the Nasiim, the princes, brought. And then on the last day we also read the beginning of Parshat Behaalotcha. But aside from the menorah that's mentioned in our parsha, and of course there's a well-known midrash that Ramban brings that indeed Aharon's korban, in a certain sense, Aharon's offering was greater than all the other princes. All the princes of 12 tribes brought their offerings, but Hashem told Aharon, yours will be greater than everybody else's. And that's hinting to the Chanukah later on when descendants of Aharon were able to inaugurate the temple. The word Chanukah itself is an inauguration. It's mentioned, of course, with regards to what happened in the end of last week's parsha, what we read yesterday on Shabbat, the Chanukat Habayit. And there was a different Chanukah that happened about 2,300 years ago or so. That's the Chanukah that, of course, happened in the times of the Maccabees, the Chashmonaim, more like 2,200 years ago. That's probably closer to the correct, even less than that, a little bit less than that. It was not in the beginning when the Syrian Greeks started ruling over us, but during the Antiochus Epiphanes IV, that's when the Chanukah rebellion happened. So our weekly parsha starts with the menorah, according to the Midrash, to hint to the offering of Aharon that would happen years later, more than 1,000 years after the giving of the Torah, a different inauguration, a different Chanukah. And what I wanted to discuss is a different verse in our parsha that specifically hints to Matisyahu. It's known that in the idea of the so-called Torah codes, and that is looking for equidistant skips of letters in the text of the Torah, usually if the word appears more than once, it's the shortest skip that's determined to be significant. If there are many different places where the word Matisyahu might appear, we want to find the shortest equidistant skip. And it's not so difficult to do, especially with a computer today. And it lands us on a pasuk, on a verse in our weekly parsha. In the 9th verse of the 10th chapter, in the word Vahariotem, you will blow into Bachatzotzrot, into the silver trumpets. These trumpets that were mentioned in this paragraph in the beginning of 10th chapter of the Book of Bemidbar, the special silver trumpets, the Torah says when to blow them. And in the 9th verse it says, if you count from the mem in the word Vahariotem, 6 letters later is tav, another 6 letters later is another tav, then yud, then hey, then vav. That's the shortest equidistant skip of Matisyahu. Vahariotem b'chatzotzrot v'nizkartem lifnei Hashem Elokeichem v'noshatem me'oiveichem. So what is it talking about? It says that the descendants of Aharon, the priest, blow these trumpets, and on which occasions they should do it. So the 9th verse says that if a war will come to your land against an oppressor, an enemy that oppresses you, you shall blow an alarm with these trumpets, and you shall be remembered before the Lord your God and saved from your enemies. I think that this particular verse fits the story of Chanukah better than practically any other verse. There are more than 5,000 verses in the Torah, and the equidistant skip of Matisyahu, the shortest skip, lands us in the exact verse that kind of tells you the story of Chanukah in just a few words. It's specifically a fight against an enemy that comes to our land, as opposed to, let's say, the Purim miracle that was outside the land of Israel. And it's talking about the descendants of Aharon, the priests, the only war that I'm aware of that was waged by priests. It was more like a guerrilla type of warfare that started by Matisyahu. Notice that it's not the menorah that's also mentioned in the beginning of the parsha, as I said. But Matisyahu didn't actually live to the story of menorah, of the candles that continued to not be extinguished longer than expected. This miracle happened later. Matisyahu died in the beginning of the rebellion. But it does talk about this idea that Hashem will save us from our enemies, and the priests will blow the trumpets. They did blow the trumpets. It says that in the Book of Maccabees that they were blowing the trumpets during these wars, which is not a big surprise. But the point is that it's going to be a miracle when we will be saved from our enemies on our land. And that's where Matisyahu is hinted. And it's interesting that Ibn Ezra comments on the next verse, when it says that we should also blow our trumpets on the occasions of Simcha, happy occasions. And Ibn Ezra says there that like Purim and Chanukah. Interestingly, so according to Ibn Ezra, the next verse also possibly hints Chanukah. Now there is a different version of Ibn Ezra, according to which it's not Chanukah, but the time of Hiskiyahu, a certain celebration is mentioned. But according to one of the versions of Ibn Ezra, it's talking about Chanukah. So Purim and Chanukah may be hinted in the next verse as well. And continues Ibn Ezra that the blowing of the trumpets is supposed to bring our people back to Hashem, cause us to not only be remembered by Hashem, but also to make us better, raise our spirits, I guess, and make us do tshuva before the creator of the universe. And I'll hope that, again, these verses will come true in our day, that our people will do tshuva, that Hashem will have mercy on our people and save us from all our enemies, and that true peace will come.